friends, it's Miss Sawzik here, and today's book is called Clark the Shark. Can you see that cover? Where is Clark? Can you tell? Yep, he's in school, because sharks go to school too. So, Clark has tons of energy. He has zing, bang, and boom, as the author says, and he loves to zoom through school and crash in his classrooms. And he gets really rowdy at recess, and he stands up and yells in class when he knows the answer. And he loves life, and he's just super enthusiastic, super happy, super energetic all the time. And it starts to drive his friends, his fellow classmates, and even his teacher a little crazy. So in this book, Clark learns how to tone it down a little bit. When is the great time to be super enthusiastic and energetic, and when it's a better time to maybe have an indoor voice, to be a little calmer, to think about other people's feelings, and that kind of thing, which is a lesson we all need to learn, because sometimes it's really hard when we're super excited about something to just calm down, but we always have to be respectful of our classmates and our friends and our teachers. And so Clark has to learn that lesson in this book, Clark the Shark. So let's see how he learns it. Clark the Shark, written by Bruce Hale and illustrated by Guy Francis. School bus. In all the wild blue seas and all the wide blue world, the top school for fish was Theodore Roosterfish Elementary. And of all the fish at Theodore Roosterfish, the biggest and the strongest was Clark the Shark. Clark loved school, and he loved his teacher, Mrs. Inky Dink. He loved to play upsy-downsy and spin-a-majig with his friends. Clark loved his life. "School is awesome," shouted Clark the Shark. "Less shouting, more reading," said Mrs. Inky Dink. "Lunchtime is sweet," yelled Clark the Shark. "Munch your own lunch," said his best friend, Joey Mackerel. "Recess rocks," bellowed Clark the Shark. "You are playing rough, Clark," cried the other kids. Yes, Clark loved his life with all of his sharky heart, but he loved everything way too much. He was too loud. He was too wild. He was just too much shark for the other fish to handle. After a while, no one would play with Clark. No one ate lunch with him. No one sat with him at circle time. Even his best friend Joey Mackerel said, "Cool your jets, Clark. You're making me crazy." Clark is making them crazy, as his best friend Joey Mackerel says. So he's too loud, he's too wild, he's too energetic all the time, which is not a bad thing in general. Like, it's great that Clark loves life. He thinks school is awesome. He thinks lunchtime is sweet. He thinks recess rocks, and he gets super excited about all of these things. And so excited that he ends up bumping into people and ruining the games and eating people's lunches accidentally and being super loud in class and disruptive. So he really loves life. He loves school, which is a great thing. But sometimes he's showing that love a little too loudly, and it's starting to drive all of his classmates crazy. Do you have a classmate like that? Have you been like that before? I think we all have at some point or another, but let's see how Clark learns to be a little calmer. One day, Clark asked Mrs. Inky Dink, "What's wrong with everyone?" Mrs. Inky Dink patted his fin. "Clark, sometimes you play too hard, you munch too hard, and gosh, you even help too hard." "But life is so exciting," said Clark. "There's a time and a place for everything," said Mrs. Inky Dink. "And sometimes the rule is stay cool." At recess, Clark tried to stay cool, but he pushed the swing with too much zing. "Sorry," said Clark, "I forgot." "Yikes!" cried Joey Mackerel. At lunch, Clark tried to stay cool, but everything smelled so good that he munched a bunch of lunches. "Sorry," said Clark, "I forgot." "We're starving," said his friends. In class, Clark tried to stay cool, but a good book got him all shook up. "Now, Clark," said Mrs. Inky Dink, "this isn't the time or the place. Tell me, what's the rule?" "Stay cool," said Clark. "Hey, that rhymes," he cried. Then Clark got a big idea in his sharky head. "Maybe if I make a rhyme, I'll remember every time," he thought. The next day, he put his plan to work. In class, when lessons got exciting, Clark wanted to bounce up out of his seat. Instead, he told himself, "When teacher's talking, don't go walking." And what do you know? It worked. "Attaboy, Clark," said Mrs. Inky Dink. Clark smiled. Lessons are fun. At lunch, everything smelled so yummy. When Clark wanted to eat and never stop, he told himself, "Only munch your own lunch." And it worked again. "Way to go, Clark," said his friends. Clark grinned. Lunch is fun. At playtime, Clark told himself, "Easy does it, that's the way. Then my friends will let me play." And playtime was fun. Once more, Clark loved his life. So, after Clark talked to his teacher, Mrs. Inky Dink, I love her name, his teacher's name, she says that he just has to learn how to stay cool. And he tries, right? He tries at recess, but then he pushes Joey way too high. And he tries at lunch, but he kind of forgot and he ends up eating everybody's lunch anyway. And he tries during story time, but he gets really excited. And then he has an idea of his own. He realizes that if he tells himself a rhyme, that might help him to remember to stay cool. So when he gets super excited and he wants to walk around the classroom and move around because he's getting kind of itchy feet in class, he tells himself, "When teacher's talking, don't go walking." And that's how he remembers just to stay calm, stay in your seat until it's time to get up and move around. And he has a great lesson. And then when he gets to lunchtime, he tells himself, "Only munch on your own lunch." And that's how he remembers not to eat any of his friends' lunches. And of course, they very much appreciate that because they are hungry and want to eat their own lunch. And now they don't have to worry about Clark eating it. And then at recess, he says it, "Then my friend, easy does it, that's the way, then my friends will let me play." So he remembers to be gentle because he's a big old shark and a lot of his friends are smaller than him. So he reminds himself with a rhyme to be gentler and all is going really, really well and he loves his life again. Let's see if that will last. But then a shadow fell across the playground. A ginormous shadow with tentacles galore. "It's a new kid, and he looks scary," cried Joey Mackerel. "Swim for your lives!" The squid squashed the slide, and it snapped off the swings. "Oops, my bad," said the new kid. "Wait," said Clark. "He just wants to play. Let's find a way." And he swum at the new kid with all his might. Clark played harder than he ever had before. Upsy-downsy and spin-em-a-jig. Why, he even made up a new game, Tail-a-Wumps-a-Lumpus. "Wow, that was fun," said the new kid breathlessly, and he settled down. "If you want to come to school, you've got to stay cool," said Clark. "That's right, Clark," said Mrs. Inky Dink. "And thanks for taking care of our new classmate, Sid the Squid." "Hooray for Clark the Shark!" Everyone cheered. That night, Clark's mother asked, "What did you learn at school, dear?" "There's a time and a place for everything," Clark said. "Sometimes you stay cool. But sometimes a shark's gotta do what a shark's gotta do." A shark's gotta do what a shark's gotta do, right? Sometimes. And sometimes you need to remember to stay cool. So Clark got it just as he was figuring life out, and he was learning how to be calm and to stay cool during recess and class and lunch. They get a new classmate named Sid the Squid. And Sid is a lot like Clark was, right? Sid's a lot bigger than everybody else, and he doesn't know how to be gentle at recess, and he kind of gets too energetic, gets really loud. But luckily, Clark has already learned how to stay cool, and so he teaches Sid how to do that too. And so Sid becomes a really great member of the class. He makes friends with all of his other classmates because Clark helped him and helped him learn how to stay cool. And so they had a really good day. They've made lots of friends. Clark goes home, and then there's a time and place for playing, and that's when he's home after school, and so he gets to spin around and be crazy with his little brother. So we learn from Clark that it's good to love life. It's great to love life. We want you to be happy. We want you to be excited, especially at school when you're learning and when you're at lunch and recess. But you also need to know when it's time just to chill out, be calm, because sometimes it can aggravate your classmates when you're talking a lot or running around the classroom, or interrupting the teacher when other people are trying to learn. So Clark has to teach himself how to be cool, calm, and collected, and that's what he does. But we also learn that there's always a time for play and always a time to have fun too. Just because we have to stay cool sometimes doesn't mean we can't be super crazy and wild and energetic when it's playtime, right? So I hope y'all have a great weekend. Have some great fun like Clark does. Be a little wild, be a little loud, but when you're inside with your parents and families, cool down, stay cool, and I'll see you next week.